Welcome, ladies and gents. Chris Andre here. You can find me at BetBoxing on Twitter for boxing related tweets, or you can subscribe to the channel. Click that notifications button, get a new notification whenever a new video is uploaded. This is going to be the third of the weekly roundup shows that we're doing here, the third week. Obviously, first and foremost, before we get into the boxing, England have just dispatched of Germany and find themselves in the quarterfinals of the European Championships. I'm sure my English subscribers are going to be bouncing off the walls all night tonight. It's going to be parties to the break of dawn. The Scottish subscribers, I don't think are going to be as pleased. But listen, England are doing fantastically well. Have yet to concede a goal. It's been very dull football at times, but it's been pragmatic. And Raheem Sterling turning up once again. The right man at the right time. He's making himself into a big game player for England. In the past, he had put in some really good performances without being able to find the back of the net at major tournaments. Well, this time around, he's flipped that around and he's been the right man at the right time. Jack Grealish coming off the bench has looked sensational. He was a game changer, involved in both goals. Defensively solid. England looking good. Looking pragmatic and good. Much like Greece of Euro 2004 in many regards, strangling out teams, striking at the right time, doing what they need to do. This could be a rather different recipe for success compared to the past for England, where it's been a lot more gung-ho and focused on entertainment. But let's talk boxing. I had to bring that in after all. I did do a little mini-series of marrying boxing with the European Championship. So I thought I'd give that a little mention. In terms of straight-up boxing, we'll start off, there's loads to cover. We'll start off with DAZN and the lineup that they've come up with. I'm not as critical of the lineup as some other people have been, but I do think they've missed a trick, and I do think there have been a lot of people that should have been invited and involved that are not. So let's talk about where I think they've gone wrong with this and the trick that they've missed. First and foremost, Hatman has been very complimentary once again, and you know, don't get me wrong, I'm always buzzing whenever I get sort of something that complimentary come from Hatman's way, and indeed from G-Man, who's also said the same thing. But at the same time, I feel a little bit embarrassed by it because I don't necessarily agree with their assessment. So let's get to the nitty gritty. They were saying that basically they felt that if they're looking for sort of talent to bring onto the team, talent to hone and stuff like that for hardcore boxing fans, that I would have been a good candidate. I have to respectfully disagree with that. I mean, I'm not trying to sell myself short or anything here, but it's just a case of, look, I've worked hard on this channel and I've not been able to grow it. And when it comes to TV personalities, a lot of the times it's about having that gravitas on screen whereby people are almost attached to your charisma. And I've managed to get sort of viewership that's grown massively, courtesy of people like Hatman, courtesy of people like G-Man that have spoken about my channel on their own channels. But I haven't been able to maintain that. You know, the viewership dropped a little bit as well. And a lot of the times when you've got TV personalities, they're the sorts of people where they can maintain that level of interest. Now, I think the content on this channel is very good. So I don't think it's that. Maybe I'm lacking some sort of charisma that doesn't translate as well. So whatever the case might be, if you're talking about talent scouting, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I'm sort of a fantastic candidate and they should be looking to a guy like me. But where DAZN have missed the trick, in my opinion, is to look at guys that are involved in online sort of podcasts and things like that. If you look at Sky, for argument's sake, Sky were fantastic at looking at the Arsenal TV success, their model, although that was a lot more outlandish and outrageous. Rather than going down that route, they went a little bit more formal. And they started bringing on guys, TalkSport did this too, started bringing on guys that were doing podcasts for fan clubs, club-dedicated podcasts, and they were giving them slots on TV, on Sky Sports News, on TalkSport, and they've proven to be successful and popular. Now, because of that, if you're looking for a guy to bring on, really, it should be someone like Hatman. And this is not one of those scenarios whereby, you know, when someone pays you a compliment, so you almost feel like you have to return a compliment. It's nothing like that. You know, like when a woman, she might get dressed up and she looks really nice and she goes to her friend's house. I see this with my own female friends, right? They go to their friend's house, the door gets opened and the other female says, "Oh my God, you look so beautiful." And the other one replies, "Oh yeah, so do you." And I'm like, you know, they spend the next 5 minutes telling each other how gorgeous they look. It's almost like that feeling of, oh, she's paid me a compliment, I need to tell her she's beautiful too. There's nothing like that here. Long-time subscribers will know that I've been a massive fan of Hatman's for years, and I've been following him for years, way before we began to interact through our channels. So it's got nothing to do with that. But here's the reason why he makes such a great candidate. Hatman's grown his channel massively. This is a guy with, the last time I looked, he's got what, 74,000 subscribers, right? Now, that shows you an ability to have that charisma that will keep people coming back. Now, additionally to that, you're talking about a man who's very articulate, who has a fantastic encyclopedic knowledge of the sport. And his intellect, by the way, extends beyond just boxing. If you've yet to subscribe to his Patreon, check it out and you'll know what I'm talking about. He will happily engage with contentious and controversial topics, as well as talking about everyday aspects of life, whether you're talking about culture, philosophy, politics, whatever it might be. And he has that critical thinking ability. And he attempts always to give both sides of an argument. So he's not going to be some sort of fanboy analyst that's going to come up with one side of the argument. He'll tell you what both fighters are doing well, what they're not doing well. He's willing to criticize anyone and praise anyone. Now, when Lawrence Okolie called out Dwyer, and Dwyer is also very talented, by the way, the internet blew up. My timeline on Twitter was going nuts. Now, to put things into perspective, again, the last time I checked, Dwyer had something like 17,000 subscribers. Hatman has 74 or whatever it is, thousand. Let that sink in. So you're talking about a bit of an internet star, so to speak, in the YouTube boxing community online. So if you employ someone like that and you bring him across to TV, he's going to bring a lot of his followers with him. He's got a fan base and he's got that ability to understand the sport and be intellectual in general. You could even use him for voiceovers because he's fantastically articulate, and yet he's also got how do I put this? You can tell he's a Londoner. You can tell he's an inner city Londoner, so to speak. So what will happen is he will translate to a variety of audiences. A plethora of people from all walks of life will listen to Hatman and they will relate and they'll enjoy what he does on screen. You could have him doing voiceovers in like a 24/7 type production. So that's a trick that they've missed, that YouTube sort of analyst community that they could have started to target. When you're talking about young people, fans that you want to drag over, if you're talking about hardcore fans, that would have it covered. Now, on the other hand, where I do disagree with Hatman and with G-Man, to be honest with you, is the use of Maya Jama. Now, Maya Jama was the ex-girlfriend of Stormzy. She's very, very popular, particularly with young men, right? And let's face it, all of these sort of TV stations, they might pretend to be politically, how can I put it, correct, but you still see that they are going to use eye candy, in search of a better word, to try and sell a product. This is just the reality. And they always do this, whether you're talking about Sky Sports News, Sky News, any sort of channel. They're a bit hypocritical because they pretend that they don't, but they do. And she's very popular. I mean, I don't really have much time for WhatsApp groups and Discord groups and stuff like that. I wish I did. I just don't. But I am in a WhatsApp group where there's 16 of us, where we talk about football. It's a football-based one. And none of them are boxing fans. And sporadically, when I've got time, I'll just log in and have a look at what they're talking about. Yesterday, I was logging in. None of them are boxing fans, nothing to do with the DAZN. The boys were having a debate about who was hotter between Maya Jama and Liz Hurley and Amanda Holden. They were having a debate. It started to get personal, with roasting each other as though their wives were being insulted or their girlfriends or something, right? The point is, one of them who watches Peter Crouch's show was saying, look, I don't even like that show. I think it's a rubbish show, but I'm watching it for Maya. The point is, she's popular. And there are going to be a lot of casuals and a lot of sort of youthful men, young men, who might even think, you know what, I like Maya, I like what she's got to say, she's promoting it, let me check her out, who might very well sign up. So I can understand why they've gone for that. For the hardcore boxing fan, I understand you might not be happy with someone like Maya Jama because she's not really a boxing, but from as far as we know, she doesn't have much of a boxing background. But a lot of the times presenters are asking experts questions, and I can see why they've gone down that route. I can understand it. I think it's quite a clever move. In terms of the rest of the panel, what I will say is that you've got guys like Paulie Malignaggi, Barry Jones, Carl Froch. Paulie and Barry Jones, in my opinion, excel when it comes to sort of technical observations. I think they had to be involved somehow, particularly Paulie. He's so popular. You've got to involve him. I think it's madness that he hasn't been involved. With regards to Carl Froch, he brings that dry wit and sense of humour. So for me, if you were smart, you'd have brought him on. If they were really smart and they wanted to do game-changing things, they could have approached Mike Tyson. Right? Mike Tyson's another one who has that gravitas. Having Mike Tyson giving his opinions on fights, even if he's not always, you know, given the best technical breakdowns sometimes, I believe anyway. Sometimes I wonder how much boxing Mike Tyson actually watches. If he is going to watch, you know that he's going to understand what he's talking about. And because it's Mike Tyson, he's going to capture the imagination. So for me, they haven't thought outside the box enough. That's my take on it. Let me know what you think about DAZN and who they've hired. Talking of Mike Tyson, by the way, massive respect to Mike and his t-shirt. I'm not going to go into why. You guys will know what I'm talking about, but my respect levels for Mike have gone up massively based on this. He falls directly into the camp of fighters I've got a lot of respect for at the moment. Guys like himself, guys like Novak Djokovic, other athletes like Joanne Blake, in terms of boxers, Josh Taylor and Anthony Fowler. Like I said, you guys will know what I'm talking about. And talking of Anthony Fowler, let's talk about Deontay Wilder, because Deontay Wilder put out a video that Anthony Fowler commented on. So Deontay Wilder has put out a video of himself doing a bench press. It's a single rep where two guys are spotting him as well, right? But it's from what I've read, it's 310 pounds or 140 kgs, which, if I'm not mistaken and my maths isn't incorrect, is about 20 stone, which is decent, right? But for a man of his size, it's not wow, right? And Anthony Fowler has basically tweeted to say, I don't understand this really bizarre video. I've benched 240 pounds myself and I'm a skinny light middleweight. He needs to chill the F out, right? Basically, Deontay Wilder started talking about how he's going to go through Tyson Fury like a steam train. As a result of this, Jimmy Manua, the MMA fighter, basically trolled him and tweeted, now do legs. Oh, man. But the point is, what is going on in Wilder's head? Right? Is it this feeling of, because he's feeling stronger than he's ever felt before, he is equating that physical strength with the ability to deal with Tyson Fury? Let me know what you think about that. Punching power is punching power. Lifting isn't necessarily going to affect that. If he lifts too much and starts to become tight through the chest and isn't exploding with the same level of torque and force, he may very well not hit as hard. But generally speaking, that isn't the case. It can be the case, though, with a guy that has snapping power rather than thudding power. And Deontay Wilder is a guy that has snapping power. He's not relying on his heavy-handedness to produce that power. He's relying on the velocity of that shot. So if that slows down, it could affect him. I'm going to assume that it won't affect his punching power and we'll just, he's just working on physical strength. Would you be putting out a video like that, though? Go check out the videos. It's on his Twitter account. He's going absolutely nuts at lifting this. Do you agree with Anthony Fowler? He's making a big hoo-ha over nothing. And talking of punching power, Eddie Hall, the former world's strongest man, who has seemingly moved over to boxing for a period, just as it's a gimmick fight, I guess you could call it. But I'm a lot more interested in this fight than I am in some of the other sort of YouTuber fights for obvious reasons. He's going to be fighting Hafthor Bjornsson, another guy who was the former world's strongest man. He has hit a machine, Eddie Hall, which measures the pressure that you produce when you're throwing a punch. It's called a power cube device. And Francis Ngannou, the UFC fighter, is the hardest puncher ever recorded in history based on that machine. Okay, he's in the Guinness Book of Records. Not every fighter in history has been measured on this machine, of course. But at the moment, Ngannou holds the record of 129,000 units, equivalent to 96 horsepower in one single punch. Well, incredibly, Hall has produced a punch that is just 10% off of that. Now, Hall, of course, is a beast of a man. If you see him, he's trimmed down a lot. He used to be what I call fat wedge, big beer belly, but massive pecs, shoulders and arms. He's trimmed down an awful lot. He used to be 433 pounds. He's down to 360 pounds in preparation for this fight. But he's producing a lot of power. Now, his punching technique is terrible. It's absolutely terrible. And if it was to improve, potentially he could improve his punching power. But on the other hand, it probably would decrease rather than increase because of the way he's launching that shot over the top. It's almost as though he's pulling something from behind him and then launching it, like a shot put type of production of power. And what can happen is when you are throwing a punch correctly so that you're not overcommitting to a shot, to maintain your range, to maintain your shape, to disguise the shot, you're not going to be landing as flush against the guy who's trained because he's going to see that punch coming. And this links back to something that Hatman has said in the past, whereby he's spoken about how different fighters will observe the power of a given opponent differently. So they will both fight fighter X and Y. And one of the fighters will see fighter X as the bigger puncher and the other fighter will see fighter Y as the bigger puncher. And a lot of that has to do with Maybe one of them sees the shot coming, he rolls with it, the other guy is not as accurate. You look at Rosado the other day, for instance, he's not renowned as a puncher. He cleaned Melikuziev's clock with a beautiful shot, and I did a little video on that where I was discussing that. The way, in my opinion, he set that shot up. He was looking for that shot earlier in the fight, and he set it up. He was looking for it. He was looking to capitalize on the error of Melikuziev. Because, to quote Georges Bidault once again, the weak have one weapon, the errors of those that think they are strong. Okay. So, the point is here, okay, so I digress too much. Eddie Hall produces unbelievable power with this, but perhaps that is to do with the fact that his technique isn't right, because he's able to just launch everything he has into it. In a real fight against a trained fighter, he might see that coming. But if they can shorten up his punching technique a little bit, listen, who knows how that fight's going to look. You're talking about two massive guys that produce a lot of natural power. Yeah, it's going to be somewhat of a gimmick fight, but it's actually one I'm really looking forward to seeing, believe it or not. Now, moving on from that, George Kambosos has let rip again at the father of Teofimo Lopez. He said that this man is an absolute clown. The guy is Bozo the Clown. That's who he is. He was at the bar every single night, drinking at the bar at the fight hotel, just enjoying his time like they had the victory and was so happy. His son just cost Triller millions of dollars. Your son just messed up a huge event, and you've got the nerve to show your face around. He's out here talking so much rubbish. His mouth is trying to write checks that his son isn't going to be able to cash, because he's trying to make the fight happen. But at the end of the day, you can fight Lomachenko, no problem. I'm looking forward to seeing the rematch, but guess what? It won't be for any belts. Let's see how much of a good fight this is when I've taken everything. Now, I'm one of those guys that's guilty of talking the other day about Lomachenko and how I believe he would beat Lopez in a rematch. But I did say, don't overlook Kambosos. I'm not trying to undermine Kambosos here. But even if Kambosos was to beat Lopez, it's still a fight that I believe Lomachenko will need, that Lopez fight. In other words, let's say Kambosos beats Lopez. I do believe that Lomachenko will then want to target Kambosos to try and get all the belts back. But he will still have to eradicate that error from his CV, in my opinion. Otherwise, it will hurt his legacy. Okay, so whatever happens there, that's my take on it. Let me know what your view is on this. Does Lomachenko have to fight Lopez at any stage again? Bear in mind, Lopez will want to move up, so he won't have forever to do it. Or do you believe he should pursue all the belts in terms of his legacy, which would be less damaging? Personally, I do think he needs to right that wrong. That's just my personal opinion. I do think Kambosos is talking rubbish about blaming Lopez for being at fault. The guy did nothing wrong. What Arum accused him of, we've covered this already. Even if he'd done what Arum wanted him to do, it still would have scuppered the fight. It wouldn't have stopped him getting what he got. It still would have scuppered the fight. So I don't agree with Kambosos if that's what he's referring to, something that Arum has made very clear what he's referring to. And you guys know what I'm talking about. I've got to be careful with algorithms here, because a lot of people are telling me they're not getting notifications since the last time I mentioned this. So I'm going to be careful with this. But the point is, yeah, I think the criticism of Teofimo Lopez on that issue is just wrong. Finally, Charles Martin has said that Dillian Whyte ain't ish, and that the fight is a piece of cake for him. Dillian Whyte put out a video saying he wants war. He didn't mention Charles Martin specifically, but Martin, of course, is calling out Dillian Whyte. Whyte had said previously that he wants somewhat of an easier fight for his next fight. This is a fight, if you're talking about an interim kind of fight, I'm more than happy to see. You know, Charles Martin has a good backhand. He's not the most agile of heavyweights, but he does have that good backhand. And we saw that Dillian Whyte, you know, against Helenius was a competitive fight. He wasn't in the best possible shape. But is it possible that, again, he wouldn't come in the best possible shape against Charles Martin because he might underestimate him? Either way, as an interim fight, I'm more than happy to see that. Let me know what you think. I know Charles Martin, that performance against Anthony Joshua, a lot of people will never forgive him for, and they don't want to see him in the ring again. I'm not one of those guys. I think he still has something to offer to the heavyweight division. And as an interim fight for Dillian Whyte, I'm more than happy to see that. One final thing, actually, before I go. Joe Joyce and Carlos Takam, let me know about that event if you guys are aware of anything. Is it going to be one of those test events where you're going to have to test to go, or is it just a regular event? I know they might not have maximum capacity in terms of crowds, but do you have to do anything out of the ordinary, jump through some hoops, or can you just attend? Please let me know if you're aware of that. Thanks for watching, everybody. Chat to you soon. Let me know about everything that you've thought about that we've covered in this video. Please hit that like button, that subscribe button, the all important notifications button. Please share the videos if you enjoy them and help the channel grow. Thank you very much, everyone. Take care. God bless. Chat to you soon.